Hello Levi! Today I wanted to talk to you about Deltarune and the new chapters releasing any day now. For those who have never played Deltarune Chapters 1 and 2, this video might not make any sense, but also, go play them! They are free on Steam and consoles and some of the most exciting demos for a video game you'll ever see. My goal for this video is to recap the copious amounts of news released by Toby Fox since the release of Chapter 2 back in 2022, and then do some minor predicting about what the chapters might contain. Basically, since it's been such a long road to get here, I want to make a good place where all the important info is compiled and easily sorted through. Sound good? Let's go.
Can you believe it, guys? Just a week away.
Let's start when this dang thing is going to release. Obviously, Deltarune is coming out tomorrow, but in the unlikely case it doesn't, we have a bit of information on how the development process is going. The good news is that, as Toby shared in the winter newsletter, both chapters are completely content complete. That means that the chapters are playable all the way through. Now the only thing stopping their release is a few important steps Toby walks us through in the summer 2024 newsletter. We know from more recent newsletters that testing the new Game Maker feature that allows switching between chapters has been completed, and Chapter 4 has been completed and translated. That means, according to this timeline, what remains is console ports, bug testing, and other stuff. And this other stuff is likely things like setting a price and marketing, both things Toby has talked about needing to be done since this will be a full paid release, unlike the first two chapters. In the bug testing and porting field, we do know from Toby's Blue Sky account that testing for consoles is seemingly almost complete, saying that testing for PS5 is the last one needed and that it began at the start of last week, which is very promising. That means we are likely at most a month away from the final phase of other stuff, being pricing and marketing, etc. Since Toby and his team are working pretty closely with Fangamer for all their merchandising and marketing, I wouldn't be surprised if they take the last step slowly, because even if Toby really wants to get the game out to folks, that's not traditionally the best marketing strategy to drop something relatively cold, and Fangamer would have a big say in that. So for a final predictive timeline, I would say we're probably looking at a mid-April release. I wouldn't be surprised to see testing wrap up by late March and then for promotion to start rolling out. At the very least, Toby has insisted time and time again that chapters 3 and 4 will be released in 2025, so that is the maximum amount we'd have to wait. Quick edit here while writing the script for this video, Toby posted that the rate of new bugs being discovered is almost halted, which means we're likely near the end of bug testing, so maybe testing will be done earlier than I thought, meaning it's like maybe start of April we could see a release. Very exciting! With chapters 3 and 4 likely coming out in the next few months, what will actually be in them? We don't know a ton quite yet, but we do know for sure that Chapter 3 will take place in a TV-themed world, and that Chapter 4 will at least have a long chunk in the light world, since Toby said on Blue Sky that he reluctantly added saving to break up the extended time there. Chapter 4 is also likely where this song will play, titled Hometown Day, and I really like it. Chapter 3 has a ton of information out about it, especially from the Spampton sweepstakes that were run 2 years ago now. During this, there was a minor ARG giving teases for the next chapter, including some low-level enemies, these two weather broadcasters, and the Green Room, a location in the Dark World. Also in the sweepstakes is a bunch of Noelle lore that links her to Spampton, as well as this page that plays a slowed version of Lost Girl titled Find Her, presumably referencing that Des, Noelle's older sister, is not dead but in fact missing, perhaps hinting that Des is lost in a dark world? Or maybe even the files of the game itself? That's just speculation on my part. Chapter 4 we know a lot less about. There are hints about cowboys being a theme, but it's unclear what chapter that would fall into. We do know that Chapter 4 will have light world save points as mentioned earlier, but whether that means there's no dark world for this chapter is unlikely. Then that begs the question, where is this chapter's dark world? Well, there are a few options that make sense, and it's mostly based on what locations around the town have double doors. We know that double doors are important for Dark World since Toby specifically changed the library doors for Chapter 2, but that also means he might do it again to keep us from guessing where all the Dark Worlds are ahead of time. In Hometown, there are 3 sets of double doors that are particularly interesting: the back of Asgore's flower shop, the church, and the abandoned bunker. While I am dying to know what the church and bunker Dark Worlds look like, they both seem too climactic of locales to be included this early in the game, so if I were to guess, I'd say Chapter 4's Dark World will take place in Asgore's shop, perhaps diving into some themes about flowers carried over from Undertale. This, however, is a complete guess, and since Chapter 3 is taking place in a Dark World without double doors, the whole groundwork for this idea could be wrong. We will see. Now, before we go, I wanted to go over some things that will be important to keep track of when playing the new chapters. The first of these themes is Chapter 2 introduced the game's first alternate path with the Weird Route, or sometimes called the Snowgrave Route, seriously twisting the story and even changing the chapter's final boss. It is unclear whether or not you need to complete Weird Route chapters to be able to progress to the next one, but either way, look out for hints from NPCs that reference a different path in the same way that Spamton did in Chapter 2. Also, keep an eye on potential new party members and their moves to see if they have any unique interactions. Just like the 2 chapters before them, chapters 3 and 4 will almost certainly have dark shards and eggs. Eggs will likely be hidden somewhere between loading zones, so look for signs similar to the graffiti in chapter 2 that reference a tree or a room between. The dark shards are going to be a little more complicated as they're tied to the chapter's secret bosses, so we're not sure how they'll show up. We do know that chapter's 3 secret boss requires the Shadow Mantle to beat, according to Sham, so finding that will likely be a step in the process. Mike is a character foreshadowed by Spamton in Chapter 2, and while we don't know his role, don't be surprised if he's the main chapter boss or the secret boss for Chapter 3. Similarly, Tenna is a character that was foreshadowed and actually confirmed by Toby on Blue Sky recently, likely be an important boss character in Chapter 3 as well. Neither of these feel inherently like they'd have something to do with the Shadow Mantle, just based on their names, so I'm not sure who is the secret boss and who's the main one, but they will both be there. Lastly, there's Pluie, whose character maybe Toby mentioned offhandedly and has lit the Deltarune community on fire, despite the fact that we know nothing about them other than they have been added to the game. I felt the need to mention it, but there's really nothing else to say. Well, folks, that is everything you need to know before Deltarune releases. I am so excited to see what Toby and his team have been working on. And I hope you are too. I will be streaming the new chapters with my friend on StarFerret64 on Twitch. We streamed through the first 2 chapters recently to catch ourselves up and create a save file, so you can watch those on the VOD channel linked in the description. But join us over there once they release and play through the game with us. With that, I have done my duty. Levi, I will see you when I see you.